On 3 out of the 4 interior walls, we're going to add what I've called moulding in the pattern. This is a strip that goes around the top of the room between the ceiling and the wall. Not all countries use moulding when they build houses. I live in England where we do in most areas, but not in some. So you can skip this bit if you don't do it in your country, or you think it looks odd, or if it doesn't work for your table. Like, for example, on most tabletops, you've got the tabletop and then there's a little bit that goes down the side before it then goes, underneath. So if this bit on your tabletop won't be seen from the inside, you could just skip this entirely. If you do want it seen, but you have a bit of a lip underneath your table, then you could move it down to below the lip. Just be aware of whatever else is going on underneath, but further down on the design, that you're not then bringing it down to be in amongst another part of the design. And you can make it as thick or as thin as you would like, and you can either use the pattern piece or use ribbon. I'm using ribbon, and I'm going to use a couple of different ribbons. I've put my first one down, and then I'm going to put a second one down, and then I'll put a third one down underneath that so that it's nice and wide. If you're using the pattern piece, it's the same as all of the others. Stitch it, turn it through, attach it. This is the end look of my moulding. It's 3 different pieces of ribbon that I've stitched down the centre of the first one, along the edge of the second one, and then I've stitched the third one to the edge of the second one. Right now, if you prepare the window frame in the same way we did previously, you're going to cut out the insides, make the lines around the outside, cut into the corners, fold it all down. There is no glass pane because this is the inside of the window, and the window glass is on the outside. And then we're going to line it up and pop it on the wall itself, stitch it on and cut out the back like we did before. Now, what there is to note about this is to make sure you line them up exactly as per the front of so this is going to be the inside front. You want to line them up exactly as per the outside front so that the windows are in the same place. You can do that just using the pattern piece, but I like to double check it by also laying, once I've pinned these on to my actual bedroom wall, I'm then going to, on my floor, I'm going to lay out my front and the exterior front, and I'm going to lay out this wall here, and I'm going to just place them back to back and check that they do line up exactly. Once you've got your placement on the wall, stitch around the outside edge. Do not stitch these inside ones yet on both windows. Then you want to flip it over, and you can pull the window away from the back. I like to actually do this from the front so that I know I'm not going to accidentally snip anything. So cut a hole into the fabric behind the window, and then we're going to cut out to this window frame. Now be very, very, very careful not to cut the window frame itself, only the backing fabric. So we're going to cut all the way around. So this is now cut away. I used both hands to do it to make sure that I was holding this down away as I was cutting through here. You just need the fabric to stop somewhere underneath this window frame so that from the front side you cannot see the fabric. So that is our windows now cut out and ready. For the curtains down each side, I want you to fold it towards the back 1/4 of an inch, and then 1/4 of an inch again, so that the raw edges get tucked under. So 1/4 of an inch over, and then another 1/4 of an inch like so, and then we're going to stitch down these outside edges, and this is the same for all 4 curtains. Next, we're going to hem the bottom, leave the top raw for now, by turning under 1/4 of an inch and then 1/2 an inch this time, and then stitching along here just like we have stitched along the folded edge on the sides. This is now, as you can see, stitched along this bottom edge. So next we want to attach the curtains. The curtains themselves line up to the top. The raw edge of the curtain lines up to the top edge of the window. They should overlap just by that folded over 1/4 of an inch in the middle. They are not movable curtains, they are fixed curtains, so we will attach them back like so with ties. If you want them to be movable, you could put a piece of ribbon or something along here, loop them over, stitch it on, so then you can pull them along the piece of ribbon. I would attach the ribbon in the middle but we found in testing that did put quite a bit of strain on your wall if the kids are opening and closing the curtains. So if you're going to do that, make sure you use some interfacing underneath and that you secure it really, really well. If you're going to have fixed curtains like so, attach the curtains on, we'll literally just stitch them along the top. For the pelmets, it's the same thing. Line it as we've done before. Lining goes right side to the fabric, stitch all the way around. Then we're going to pull the two apart and snip, well, I can't grab it. We're going to trim all around at first, trimming off these corners here and doing little notches in to the end. Pull it apart, snip, turn it through, press. Next up, we're adding the pelmet onto the curtain, so or onto the window. Where this should be placed is about 1 inch above the edge of the window frame. So this is the top edge of the window frame here, and I've placed it 1 inch above and it's centered over the window. You'll see that it's slightly wider than the curtains, and if you look underneath, the window frame should still be visible underneath, so that we can stitch around this when we come to attaching the exterior to the interior. We're going to do the curtain ties similar to how we did the garage door ties. Place the fabric right sides together along its length, and then instead you're going to stitch along one short end, along the long side and along the short end, just leaving a 2 inch gap roughly somewhere in the middle. And then what we're going to do next is chop off these corners so that we're trimming some of the bulk away, turn it through and press it. So you should now have 4 curtain ties and also 4 little strips of 3 inch hook and loop tape. The loop is the furry, the hook is the scratchy one, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to attach a hook and a loop to each of the curtain ties. So it doesn't really matter which one you start with first. I'm going to start with the hook tape. Again, I've got the sticky stuff, but if you don't, you can pin it on and then stitch it. So I'm going to stitch this around to hold it in a moment. So the hook tape I've put on one end, and then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to put the loop tape on the other end, and then we will check that it matches up and it will tie in quote marks together. So you see I've got hook on one side, loop on the other, and when I roll them into a circle, that is then going to then attach. So this attaches to the house like so. The curtain goes through here, and when the child wants to shut the curtain, they just open that, and when they want to close the curtain, they shut it. So if you go ahead and pop loop tape on one end, flip it over, hook tape on the other end for all 4 of the ties, and stitch on to secure. We're going to attach the curtain tie now. If you fold the curtain tie so that it is in half and find the center point, so I'll pop a little pin in there to find the center point, and then if you unfold the curtain tie, you've got the center point. Now that center point should be horizontally, so between here and here, it should be in the middle, so it should run down the center of the window frame here, and the bottom of the curtain tie should match along the top of that strut coming out from the window frame. So that's how you know it's correct, is that you're centered here and then you're running along this edge here. And before you stitch it on, just to make sure that the curtain tie does actually close, and then you want to stitch that on. I'm going to stitch mine in about a kind of a square pattern to give it really good kind of security. You could just stitch a line down, but that is kind of prone to kids pulling at it. So I would do a little square there, and then we're going to do the same for all of the other curtain ties. Pop that so that it is horizontal along here and vertical that way, and then you can see my fabric is directional, and because it's been folded over, it's the wrong way up here, but the right way here. So I might actually just turn mine around so that then it's the wrong way up when open, but the right way up when closed. So there we go. That means then my curtain ties, when I close them, will be the right way up. So make sure to get the directional however you'd like it. We're going to do the beds now next. For both beds, pop the base down first and then the headboard and footboard. They are all similar widths and these ones are similar length, so just make sure you get the right one in the right place. Next, pop the mattress on both of the beds. And then we put the bed blanket on. Then pop the throw on. And then last for the beds, we add the pillow. Next up, we're going to add the teddy. So pop the body of the teddy on the bed wherever you'd like it. Next, teddy face and the teddy tummy. And then a tiny little nose on the teddy, which is a bit difficult to see. So I'll lift that up. There we go. I've done some detail stitching on my bear. It's still hard to see the nose with the two colours I've done, but I'm quite pleased with how it looks going around. For the eyes, I used what's called a satin stitch, where you just stitch around and around and around and around and around like that. So through one side of the fabric, down, underneath, up and over, around, down, up and over, like that. Just be careful not to pull it so that it buckles, but as long as you keep the thread not loose but not overly taut, then that works quite nicely. We're now going to do the unicorn pillow. The way this works is the body goes on and then the mane, which is a piece of ribbon, goes on, and then you put another ear over the top. So you've got the ear behind and the ear over the top on the two sides of the face, and the horn goes over the top of the ribbon as well. And then you can put any detail that you would like on the body, stitch on a little heart on the nose, the eyes. This is a copy of our actual unicorn pillow, which is on our website, in case you also want to make a life-size version to go on your child's actual bed as well as in the table tent. Right, I've got my piece of ribbon here and I've done a gathering stitch along one end, and then I'm going to take the bobbin thread, which is underneath, and I'm going to pull it so that it gathers, and I'll pull from both ends so that it is so it gathers up, and then I'm going to arrange this down the back of the unicorn and stitch it on. Now if you want to, you can curve the edges of the ribbon like I have, or you can leave them square. It's up to you what look you would prefer. So this is, I'm going to spread the gathers out a little bit with my fingers. Once that's all gathered, I'm going to pin it along the back of my unicorn like so. So this is a little bit fiddly, but you want to, this is not the finish of the actual unicorn. This is a pretend toy version for the table tent. This is sandwiched in between several layers of the actual unicorn if you were making it for life size. And then once you've pinned this on like so, you then want to stitch the edge of the gather down so that it's attached. Once we've got this stitched on, you can see I've just run a single row of stitching along the edge of the ribbon. Then you want to get the bobbin thread, which is the underneath one, from the ribbon, and you should be able to pull it so that it pulls all the way out. And then the other bit of gathering thread, then you can lift off, and if you've stitched over any of it, you might need to pull it out a wee bit, but it will all come off. And then there we go, then your ribbon is stitched on and you don't have any of these threads left. A really nice touch, if you like it, is to pop the child's name along the edge of the blanket as if it's been embroidered on the blanket, or any other detail, any things that they keep under their bed, whatever you would like to make this feel like it's their bedroom. Here is my unicorn after a bit of stitching. I've gone around the heart, which I'm now not sure about because I did it in a different colour pink and it looks a bit odd, but it's still cute. The kids will like it. And a bit on the ear and the eyes and the horn. So that's my unicorn now complete. So our front bedroom is now complete. We're ready to put that aside. We've got the teddy on one side. Oh, it's all sliding all over my table. We've got a window at the top. There is a space for the door, but the door is not cut out yet. And then on the other side, we have the unicorn pillow, another bed, and the other curtains. Gosh, it's sliding all over my table. So don't cut your door out yet. We will do that in the assembly phase. Here is our finished bedroom. You'll note that we have not cut out the door yet. We do that during the assembly phase later on. but you've got a bed either side of the door with a teddy and a miniature unicorn pillow and the windows. Starting the bathroom, you're going to attach the moulding just like we did previously if you'd like to use that, and then also attach the window opposite where it is on the side window box wall in the same way that we have done before. So you've got you've finished the window frame, stitched it on in the right place, and then trimmed the fabric away behind it. Next up, you want to do the window as we did the last one. You've got the window frame here that we have turned under, and then the back's been cut out, and you've got your curtains. Turn down the sides, turn under the bottom and stitch. Attach the curtains along the top, attach the curtain pelmet, and then ties if you want to be able to tie them back. So that's the whole window exactly as we've done it in previous ones. Next, you want to stitch and turn through the bath and get that all pressed and ready, and it's the same method that we've been using before. Right, you want to pop the bath on the bathroom wall. I have just pinned part of it on here and left the corner open, and the reason I've left this corner not attached is because the roll top goes overlapped like so, and then the shower pipe goes up here, and the reason we're placing it on is to get that placement. So pin the bath on and then peel the bath back and stick your shower pipe on, and then that way that's attached at the right place. Next up, you then want to stitch the actual bath down. Next up, pop the bath feet on. I don't know why my claw feet are green. I'm not sure, that was the colour I picked. And then the roll top of the bath, that's the curve over the top of the bath, and the shower head. Next up, attach your 3 shelves to these, just in between the window and the edge of the wall. You've also got a loose towel here. If you want it fixed, you can have it fixed. I'm going to show you how to do it loose. Take your towel, fold it in half and give it a press. Next, we're going to create the towel rail. These are 2 little bits of ribbon that are 3/4 of an inch long, and I didn't have the right width ribbon, so what I've done is I've taken a piece of ribbon, folded it in half and stitched it. So then I have the right width thing. So you want something that's about 1/4 of an inch or slightly more in width, and that is 3/4 of an inch long. Place it so that it's 1/4 of an inch in from the edge of the shelf and that it's running vertically. So once you've got both of these little 3/4 inch long strips, stitch them on. These get stitched down 1/4 of an inch in from each of the ends of the shelves. So once you have stitched these 2 little end bits down, then you want to get a piece of the same trim or ribbon that's the width of the bit in between and stitch it down either end. So this is nice and securely attached. Then you can take your towel, check that it fits the gap in between. If not, you might want to trim it, and you want to just put the towel over the rail here so that it's hanging. If you want it to be removable, leave it like that. If you don't, run another stitch along the top here to hold it on, or you can stitch down this back half if you don't want the seam to be visible. All of the pieces on the shelf are designed to be removable. If you don't want them removable, then follow exactly what we've done before. Stick all the bits on, stitch them on, and apply any detail stitching actually on the wall. If you do want them removable, then what you need to do is put the labels on each of the bottles, peel this backing bit off, then stitch shampoo, conditioner, whatever the label is on, and then we're going to follow the same way as the kitchen. We're then going to put them with the sticky stuff on the back onto the backing. Make sure the backing's got hook and eye tape on the back, cut around it, and then they're all removable to put on and off the wall. So we're going to do that now. I have stuck the label on here, and I'm going to do all of my detail stitching on all of the bits that go on the shelves first, because I'm going to make them removable. Then we'll do the hook and eye tape and making them double-sided. Next, we've got all of these little detail pieces. You can see that they're constructed in the same way we did the kitchen. the ones in the kitchen. Firstly, you want to stitch any detailing on the very top layer, and then you're going to attach that top layer to the one underneath if there is one. This one here, for example, doesn't have a label, it's just straight on the bottle. And then on the back you want to put your hook and loop so that it can be stuck to the wall, and then attach them together and trim any little bits around the outside so that it's all nice and neat. So these are all exactly the same. If you don't want them to be removable, it's the same thing but not the back layer. You're just going to do the stitching, put the label on the bottle, and then stick or stitch the bottle directly to the wall. So there we go. Those are all of our little detail pieces on the bathroom wall. Here is the whole of the back, not the back, the bathroom, the side wall interior bathroom. You can see you've got the window, and then you've got all of the little things to play with on the shelves. If you're going to pop moulding on, do that now either via the pattern piece or using ribbon. We're going to attach the light next, so start by popping the pendant, light pendant I think it is, cord is the name of it, anyway the strip which holds the light up. It is in the centre of the room, so you can grab your pattern piece for placement, or you can just put it straight down the centre. Then after that you're going to need the actual pendant light and the light bulb, or the light shade and the light bulb, and these are going to go on the end of the pendant. The shade will go on the end of the pendant and the light underneath, the bulb underneath, like that. So you can either grab your pattern piece for placement, or alternatively you can place the lampshade on. It should be, if you fold it in half to get the centre point, it should be centred, and you can butt it right up. I would overlap it. I like to overlap it ever so slightly so that I know it is going to meet it, and then I'm going to pop the light bulb centred underneath that. So that's how I get my light bulb placement. So I will take the shade away and put my bulb on, and then I'll put the shade on afterwards. So this is how it will look next, and then the next piece is to put that on. Once you've got the lamp or the light all finished, we're going to attach the light switch, which is basically a rectangle with another little rectangle to be the flicky up and down bit, and then two little screws. Now light switches do vary significantly by country if you look at different styles online. So if your country uses a light switch which is quite different to the one here, feel free to swap it out for whatever the design is that you have in your country. So here's my little very English light switch. I'm going to put a little line across the centre here to make it look like it flicks up and down, and probably a little line in the screws here to make them look like screws, and stitch around it to give it some detail. This is my light switch after I've done some embroidery on it to make it look like it's a switch and also screws. Next up, we're at the bottom of the wall and we're adding the table and the chairs. So I've started with the table leg here. It is literally in the centre of the wall, unless you've got a different size or shape wall. I'd recommend putting it in the centre, and I've put that on. Next, I'm going to add the tabletop at a, is that 90-degree angle across there, and then my chairs. You can place them by the pattern pieces. I also recommend that you just lay it on before you stitch and glue any of it down to check that you're happy with the placement. After the leg, then tabletop on, and then you can add your the four legs of the chairs and the two backs of the chairs. The last thing to then pop on after that is the seats. Now the seats are not a complete rectangle. They do have one line that is angled so that it goes with the back line here. So they can go on over the top. You should have it so that it ever so slightly overlaps it or butts up exactly. You don't want to have a little gap like so. And then after the seats, you can pop your cushions on. After seats and cushions, next up is our cat. If you've got a cat with stripes or any kind of particular markings, you could pop them on as well, either with fabric or with embroidery. So after this, I'm going to then embroider the face on and pop her little, or his little nose on. And that's the cat there with the nose on before I embroider. This is my little cat. I've put some stitching on the cat just to give it a little bit of definition. We're going to do this stack of books next. Pop the largest book, which is book number 5 at the bottom, and we're going to do them one at a time going up the pile. Before you stick it on, what I recommend you do is just grab the pages and check that you have got it the right way up, because it is quite a similar shape to then flip it the wrong way up. And if you ended up with it the wrong way up, the pages don't line up. So make sure it's the right way up by placing your pages on first, then pop your book down, and then pop the pages down next. Once you've got your pages on, get the next book, and I would do this as per the pattern placement, because the books kind of are stacked not quite aligned as you go up. If you want a nice neat pile, you can just go up like so, but if you want a little slightly off kilter, then I would do it exactly as per the pattern pieces. Again, each of these is quite easy to get the wrong way up, so make sure by popping the pages on first before you stick it down that you've got it the right way up. So we're going to go book, pages, and then book number 3, pages number 3, book number 2, pages number 2, book number 1, pages number 1, all the way up the pile. So I've got book 5, book 4, now I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. Here's my whole stack of books. I've done them kind of slightly a kilter so that they'll look like a little messy stack when I've done my embroidery. I'm going to then embroider on the pages on the lines along here as the pages on the book, and then also I'll put in a spine. If you have favourite books, or your child who's going to be using it has favourite books, you could do them in the same colours, you could put the names on the spines, you could put the author's names on, whatever you would like. It's up to you and your imagination. Here is my stack of books after I've done embroidery. I've stitched the edge of the spine and also some papers on there. I haven't put any names of books, but you could do that if you wanted. We're going to do the fruit bowl now, and this little worm is supposed to come in one side and out the other side of the apple. There's little placement marks on the pattern piece, or you could even just pop it behind if you didn't want to have to cut it. What I suggest you do is mark these on. I've just marked them in pencil because my tailor's chalk didn't seem to want to go kind of strong enough on it. And then I'm just using the very, very, very tip of my scissors to make a little cut line along each of these, so that then I can thread my worm through. There we go, so that's my little cut lines there. Once you've got the little hole, you want to take your worm, make sure you've got the paper backing off both of them, and pop the worm through one hole and out the other. If you find you've not cut the holes big enough, then you might want to just add a little bit to them. And then we're going to stick him in place already threaded through. Or her, could be a her worm, I don't know. Whatever you would prefer. There we go. So now my worm is on place on my apple. Now we're going to do the fruit bowl. I've put the fruit bowl backing on. I'll then be putting my fruit all I'll put all of the fruit on, and the fruit bowl front on as well, to kind of get the placement. And then once I'm happy with it, I'll then stick each of the fruit down, and then the bowl will go over the top. So the order you put your fruit down depends on what you want overlapping what. You can either follow exactly as per the pattern piece, or you might be putting different fruit in. There's all kinds of fruit in the kitchen as well that you could use bits of those to go in here. It's up to you. If you want to make this interactive, you can do it so that you are stitching down the outside of the bowl, but not actually gluing the front part of the bowl on. And then that way you could put hook and loop tape and have each of your pieces of fruit be removable. So if you want to do that, you can follow that in the same way that we did, like the egg box in the kitchen. I'm not going to make this interactive. I'm just going to have these stuck down. Here's all my fruit on. You can have the the fruit in whatever order you'd like, and then I've got the front of my fruit bowl here. So I've got these so that they're overlapping slightly and they look like they're in the fruit bowl. So I'm going to stick my fruit bowl down on top now and then do any embroidery I want to show, for example, the little curve of the apple there, the little lines in the face on the worm, lines on the banana, etc. That's my finished fruit bowl. Next I'll do my embroidery. Here's how I've embroidered my fruit. I've stitched around each of the fruit. I haven't gone around the bowl, but you could if you wanted. And I've stitched some detail on my worm, on my leaves, and also on my banana or bananas. Here's our finished. This is our finished dining room. You've got the cat, the books, the table and chairs, and the fruit bowl, the light switch, and the lampshade that's hanging.